Hi everyone. Hi Bob. Welcome to today's segment of my take on. I have this segment every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time on Instagram. And the video will also be posted on my YouTube channel, which is Sharon Yong Violin. So welcome, and today's segment we're going to talk about Bach Giga from Partita No.3. Hi! Yes, for string players, you probably will know that Bach had written 6 sonata and partitas for unaccompanied violin solo. So out of the 6 pieces of work, he wrote 2 jigs, and this particular one is from Partita No.3, and it's the last movement. So to give you a little background, jig is simply a very lively Baroque French style dance tune in compound triple time, meaning that we have 2 sets of 3 in every measure in this case. Sometimes it's only in 3/8, so we have, for example, 3 beats in a measure. And usually it's very fast paced. Hi Edwin. And yes, it's a very brisk and lively work. So that will in itself brings quite a lot of challenge for violin playing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of areas, especially the technical elements of playing the fugue or the jig. So before we start the discussion, I'm just going to play an excerpt of the jig so that you can have a context, and then we're going to start our discussion. So this is basically the first section of the jig, and usually there are 2 sections in binary form, and each section should be repeated. So you have AABB form. Now, given the speed of this jig, it's quite fast, and it needs to be light because remember, jig is essentially a dance for the late 17th century. And oftentimes it was performed in the court, meaning for the royalties. So there are a couple of challenges in this particular piece. The first one I have to say is how we treat the 8th note versus the 16 notes. These are the 2 kinds of note that made up the entire song, 8th and 16th. The 8th note, we usually have the first 2 8th notes slur, and then the 3rd one is separated. So it can easily sound like and it's kind of stuck if you do that. So we need to keep it light. So the lift is very essential. The 2nd note of the slur needs to be lift to the ear. So we don't necessarily lift the bow, however to the ear the note needs to be light and lifted. So then it is separated from the 3rd 8th note. And I think that is important, and we need to be consistent throughout the whole piece, because every time we have a 3/8 note figure, the first 2 8th notes are always slurred. So in order for it to not feel stuck, we're gonna lift the second of the slur, second eighth note of the slur. So what we essentially have to do, two things. First is we do a slight decrescendo to the second eighth note of the slur. So the second of the slur, make it lighter and softer. Second thing is that we have to let the bow come to a stop, so that the end of the second eighth is separated from the beginning of the third eighth note, and that is also very important. So we are not lifting the bow, we're not letting it go off the string, because at this speed, if the bow is off the string, it will go everywhere. You want the bow to be in control in your hand, so make it a practice that we simply stop the hand to let the bow come to a rest. So when the bow comes to a rest, you won't hear any sound. In itself, the silence will allow you to string cross without disrupting the melodic line, and also to create this lightness to this figure. So when we put it together, as we bring the second note to a softer dynamic and actually allow the bow to stop and then cross. All right, so I would say this is the first thing. I would always, as I practice, go through this particular figure throughout the entire piece. Almost every two measures you will see a figure of 3/8 note with the first two slur that needs to be separated from the third eighth note. So that if we can work that to a consistent basis, that already is half the work being done. Now, second thing that I want to talk about also is, I would say technically challenging, is the string crossing, because it's going so fast and a lot of motion going on. And in order for us to have a clean string cross, meaning crossing from an old string to the new string, two things have to happen. First, before the string cross, your arm has to get to the new string from the old string. So in order for that to happen, the second thing must also happen, is that the bow has to come to a silent before crossing. So string crossing, as you can see right now, is a silent activity. We shouldn't hear all these stuff going on, otherwise it's extra notes that we added to Bach's work, right, which is not written there. So we have to be very careful and conscious when we practice every time there is a string cross. So I'm gonna just demonstrate how I would very slowly work on string crossing when I'm learning this piece. So yeah, patience is the number one thing. And also be very aware that a lot of times in Bach's work, String crossing also means you actually skip a string. So instead of crossing from one string to the next, you sometimes will actually cross two strings. So it's very, very important, what we were saying earlier, to allow the bow to come to a stop, cross, and your arm can actually be helping. So the bow should arrive at the new string before you move the bow. And of course, there are places where you just want to take out those little moments where there are a lot of busy string crossing, and just take them out and use a magnifying glass, do it in slow motion many times until you feel comfortable enough to close the gap between the string cross. I'll give you kind of an extreme in the second part of this jig in the B section. This is kind of an extreme case of string crossing. Right? So cross. Right? So those are the moments that you need to really spend the extra time to work on those string cross. So then you end on the old note to cross to the new note on the new string, and do it in speed, in tempo. Now, so yes, we talk about consistency of how we treat the slur and the eighth notes, the string crossing. The third thing I want to talk about in this piece, and not only in this particular jig, but it's almost across Baroque and classical period music, is that was during a time when the piano, the keyboard, was actually called forte piano, partly because they only have two dynamics. It's either forte or piano by the shift of the pedal. So basically in a piano is the hammer or the pluck. Whether they're plucking three strings, so make it louder, which is a forte to them, or plucking one string, that would be a piano. So we call it forte, it's loud, right? Piano is soft. So in order for that to be distinct, we need to make sure that the forte is really loud and the piano is really like an echo, almost like a call and respond. However, in this jig, because it's quite fast, normally to do loud, to play loud, we simply use more bow, right? And to play soft, we simply use less bow. However, in this case, every note is so fast. Your length of bow simply have to keep to about the same between forte and piano. So instead of using more bow for forte, which is going to drag and kind of make you late for the beat, we have to maintain about the same bow length for all the 16 notes. So we got to find out another way to create this forte piano effect. So one way is what I have not talked about before is bow pressure. In this case, we use bow pressure. The more pressure, louder, less pressure, softer. It makes sense. However, we also have to remember we're playing on a modern violin with modern bow, but during Bach's time, the bow is really in a bow shape. So what it means, they also didn't have the frog the way we do with metals and all that to add the added weight. So what it meant is during Bach's time, when you play on a Baroque bow, it really doesn't matter how much you press, because it's not, the weight is not going to transfer to the string. It's not going to affect the string. So you're basically wasting your energy pressing on the bow. So since we're using modern bow, we want to capture that same lightness, but maintain the power when we play forte. So it's very, very important that we set our arm to a level that you feel you are resting your arm on air, on an air pump. So you're always pumping air from your bow arm rather than pressing, because I actually prefer not to have to use the word pressure, because every time when especially students think of pressure is that they, and a lot of bad habits and tension comes from doing that. You know, they press and then they forget to release, and to release the tension at the same time. And this piece is rather long and fast. You can imagine just pressing like that, it doing more harm than good. So I like to think of arm resting on air cushion or an air pump. You pump more air, you get bigger sound. You pump less air, less sound. That's it. So one example will be in the second half of the piece, in the B section. So technically I'm still using about the same amount of bow as I would play piano. And I'm not really pressing that much because this is Bach, this is not Brahms. If we're playing Beethoven or Brahms or Tchaikovsky, yes, we need more of that. But we want to maintain the elegance of the dance. So drawing the bow with your arm going kind of like a lateral U shape. So it's kind of waving from left to right. So instead of saying down and up bow, I like to say right bow and left bow, because this is the actual movement of your arm. Now first is if I have to do it soft. Right? So let's say I want to be creative. The first time I play this, I'm going to play it loud, forte. Now when I do the repeat, I don't need to say the same thing twice the same manner. The second time I can simply start with a little that will also give some variety to the tone color. Now, so I feel that these couple of things will actually make quite a lot of difference in the variety, the phrasing, and overall the quality of sound is so important, especially playing Bach, because it's solo. Unaccompanied violin is all about violin. There's no pianist or other parts of the other instrument that can cover you up. So it's so important that every note is like a spark of jam. So this is one of the reasons I find it challenging and also very fulfilling to practice Bach, is because you get to experiment with different ways to form the best sound, the most balanced and reasonable phrasing that you can technically get out of a violin. Yeah, so I mean, these are just tips that hopefully will help string players to help them with playing Giga or any works by Mozart, Bach, or Baroque music. These ideas will apply, these principles apply. And as I said before, this today's segment will also be posted to my YouTube channel. So for those who welcome so many of you guys, hi, how are you guys? Yeah, so if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. And if you like what you're watching, put a thumbs up. Every Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time, I also have live concert from my living room on YouTube channel, Sharon Yong Violin. And right now, the current series of the live concert is Dancer, all about dance music. I'm sure you already have watched some of the clips. So if you like to see some ideas, what I do in that concert, video is posted also to my Instagram account. If you go to my profile, it's under the IGTV. Yeah, so two other things I would like to share with you guys at this moment. One is I'm very excited to announce a new little project that I'll be putting up on YouTube. Fortunately, I won't be doing that on Instagram. This is going to be a violin studio. So it's going to be short videos, pre-recorded short videos for violin students or anyone who has a violin or just want to learn the violin. Now, these videos are by no means to replace a one-on-one teacher, but it's just to give you something to start with, or for those who are already taking private lessons, to have some reminders through the week. You can rewatch those videos, and this is really the idea, is for students to be able to go to a particular segment, target what they need, whether it's vibrato, whether it's bow hold, whether it's how to hold a violin, how to tune your violin, how to set up your practice area, or how to read notes, how to count notes, how to avoid playing on different string when you need to play only on one string, right? To refer to specific tasks during a week to kind of give you the reminder, and also maybe some insight how to make it better. But yes, as I said before, this is not to replace an in-person one-on-one teaching with your teacher or learning with your teacher. So these videos are going to be short, hopefully within 2 to 3 minutes, concise, very to the point. So my goal really is to explain the skill, demonstrate the skill, and then give an example. So this is my ideal teaching method. So yeah, as I said before, because it's pre-recorded, I would not be posting on Instagram, but instead the whole series will be on my YouTube channel. So if you are interested, or share with your friends, tell them something like this is available and see if they're interested. Obviously, I do teach private students now on virtual platform, whether on WhatsApp, Zoom, or Facebook. So if you're interested, you can DM me, email me. Oh, one more thing is that I have the CD album called Salute d'Amour, has been out for a while. This is the physical CD inside. I think the last two segment of my take on, I have talked about some of the songs that in the CD, in this album, and how I decide what song will go on to my program, and in what order. I think, yeah, so if you're interested, you can go back to the last two segment of my take on. I think it's pretty interesting to share with you guys my thought process on how I select concert programs and the order of these songs. So yeah, the album is available also on any streaming platform under Sharon Young Violin. All across is the same name, whether Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or streaming platforms. Just to make it easy for me and for everybody else to remember. Yeah, so if you like what you're watching today, share with people, share with friends, let them know. So I hope to see you around 5 o'clock Eastern Time for the YouTube live concert from my living room dancer. So until then, I will see you next week. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.